if you look at the Mets depth chart, the bullpen right now, the three of us could be on the back end of that bullpen. Like, there's nobody in there right now. They're terrible.
If David Stearns doesn't act soon, we're going to roll into April with a lineup that looks like a spring training split squad game. This lineup is just not good enough.
I'm not a fan of Valdez, and I don't like the fact that he crossed up his catcher on purpose and threw a fastball straight at his neck. Francisco Alvarez is not going to take lightly to that.
Back to the Meet the Mets Fans podcast. I'm your host, Stefan. I'm here with my co-host, Sid. And today we also have on the pod our guest co-host. His name is Matt. Matt, welcome to the pod. Sid, welcome back.
How's it going, guys? Let's go Mets.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
We've got another great fan story that we're going to share with you guys in just a little bit. There has been some news around the Mets that happened today. We are recording this episode of the pod on Black Friday. And so we'll talk a little bit through some of the headlines and things that have come our way, some news that has come out just a few minutes ago before we went live. But before we dive into all of that stuff, let's start with our Amazin Beginning segment. Matt, tell us a little bit about your origin story. Why are you a Met fan?
Of course. Well, first of all, thanks for having me, guys. Happy to be here. I've been a Mets fan since 1998. And to be completely precise, August 22nd, 1998, which was my first Mets game. It was against the Diamondbacks. My parents took me. We sat in the upper reserve, in the red section at Shea Stadium. And when I was that young, it was like so high in the sky. But there's one thing I remember is that Mike Piazza hit a go-ahead grand slam in that game. And I never forgot it because the crowd went nuts. I learned Mike Piazza's name that day, and I never forgot it. And he had only been with the team, I think, for a couple weeks at that point. So it was a big highlight of my Mets fandom. I was really getting into baseball that year because of the home run chase with Sammy Sosa, Mark McGwire. I was following that on SportsCenter every day. And to piggyback on that story, like, I got the chance to meet Piazza a couple years ago, and I had like a quick second after I snapped a photo with him, and I just said to him exactly what I'm telling you guys now. Like, this day, my first Mets game, you hit a grand slam, made me a Mets fan. Thank you. And he said, you know what? I remember that. That was right after I got there. And that was really cool. And yeah, that set it off for me. Obviously, the next couple of years that followed were a big deal for Mets fans, like 99. Mets made a wild card run. Disappointing ending to that season. 2000 World Series was exciting. Subway Series here in New York. Everything was jumping. And then, you know, ebbs and flows the years after that. I was really plugged in on the team from 06 to 08. 07, 08, my parents started letting me go to games with my friends. So I think I went to like 24 games in 2007. Obviously a sad ending, but it was fun to be a part of. And I've had a couple other really great Mets memories following the team over the years. I was lucky enough to work for MLB.com. And I got to edit the video clip of that grand slam I told you guys about, put that on the website. The Mets reposted it at one point. I got to go to almost all the playoff games in 2015, including all 3 World Series games. Saw Cespedes' homer against the Dodgers. That's as loud as Citi Field's ever been for me. Murphy's home run against the Cubs. David Wright's home run in the World Series, the only game that we won in that series. So it was that's really where my fandom comes from. And I've been to many games over the years. Missed Shea Stadium. Learned to love Citi Field. And happy to be here and share the story.
Great story, Matt. Great story. So as we were preparing for this episode, the way we do this is we build out a show sheet together. Matt, as a guest co-host, is part of that process. And in doing that, Matt had an idea for part of the episode that he wanted to talk about. Do you want to kind of outline the idea that you had?
Sure, yeah. Well, first of all, when I heard about your podcast, guys, like the thing that caught my eye was this segment, this Amazin fan segment. And the way that every fan like has their story about how they became a fan. And then there's other things that make us fans and make us unique. And like one thing I always remember reminiscing on with my friends is like the walk-up song for all the players in the Mets lineup. Like I used to have an iTunes playlist on my iTunes and my MacBook with like the whole Mets lineup from like around that period, 07, 08. everybody, like Julio Franco, Carlos Beltran, like we had everybody, like Carlos Delgado. We went and we downloaded, we find the music. So I thought it would be fun to ask you guys, like, what was your favorite Mets player walk-up song of all time? I guess you can include starting pitchers, relief pitchers too.
I want to say Wilmer Flores with the Friends theme song. It was so New York. Like I feel like um Wilmer has a special place in a lot of Mets fans' hearts. You know, missing that after he left was pretty sad for me because it was, I felt like that year too. Whenever he would come up to pinch hit, the Friends song would come on, and he would somehow work out a good at bat or get like a clutch hit. But that one comes to mind.
I think I like the idea of including the relief pitchers in it. I think the Edwin Diaz entrance music is phenomenal, and it drives Citi Field and Mets fans wild. But on a same note, I'm gonna go with a hitter anyway. I think what Francisco Lindor has done with My Girl is unbelievable, right? Like my kid who just turned 6 years old loves Francisco Lindor because of that. Like his song comes on and she knows exactly who's coming up in the lineup. She gets so excited for it, but so does every Met fan. And the idea that this has become part of what Citi Field, the vibe at Citi Field is like, it's unbelievable. It's a beautiful thing. And maybe I'm just feeling recency bias, and picking that song, but I've never felt that way in the ballpark about somebody's walk-up music. I think David Wright's I've Got Five on It is pretty awesome also, but I'm going to go with Lindor.
Of course. I mean, Lindor's become a classic, and that's probably the most prominent one, I think, since Wright has retired. And just the way the whole ballpark sings is such a beautiful song, and I feel like it matches Lindor's personality, too. Like, he just seems like a warm, like, bubbly, welcoming guy. I hear you on that one. I Got Five on It is the first one that came to mind for me. I had Flores on my list, too. Like, I know Daniel Murphy had that, like, Dropkick Murphy song, like, Shipping Off to Boston. That always used to get people, like, going a little bit. Cespedes with the Lion King. That one always cracked me up, too. Vogelbach had the Milkshake song at one point and, he had a short stint with us, but... And then just going back, I told you those teams, the 2000s teams, like Carlos Beltran had the song El Está Aquí. And I just remember, like, all my friends, every game we'd go to, we all start singing when that song came on. It always got us going.
Great idea, Matt. I love that, and we'll definitely throw that one at some Met fans in the future. I like that as a great addition to the pod. I think walk-up songs bring the vibes that we're looking for. All right, we are gonna transition over to the state of the Mets. Some big things have happened. On the last pod, we talked about the Brandon Nimmo trade. I think this is the perfect time to react as Met fans. It's been about a week almost since that trade has taken place. How are you guys feeling about the New York Mets right now post Brandon Nimmo?
Sad, that sums it up in one word. Nimmo, I think, was a heart and soul of what this team meant, and a special era of the Mets that I feel like they're now transitioning from. So, Nimmo came in. I know there's been some, issues with Lindor and him taking over the team, but I always felt like Nimmo and Pete, the homegrown guys, kind of were the heart and soul of the Mets. And to trade him away, I get the reasoning, I get the defense, the run prevention, whatever you want to call it. Stearns is, trying to trade a guy a year too early versus a year too late, especially with the long-term contract. I get it. Doesn't mean I have to like it. Marcus Semien, what we got, I don't know. I feel like a prospect should have come our way. A 35-year-old second baseman just doesn't cut it for fair value for a guy that I think is gonna, hit 30 home runs in Texas and drive in 100 runs and have a really good OBP. I feel like he's got maybe 3, good years of production left. From maybe a guy that maybe has 1 good year of production left is just not enough. But I digress.
It's all fair. Listen, anytime a fan favorite, like a homegrown player, draft pick, like, gets traded, I think fans have a right to question it and be frustrated. I think everyone kind of goes to that reaction when they talk about this trade, but my first thought was David Stearns, who I'm sure we're going to talk a lot about on this podcast. Like, almost every move he made last year went wrong. So he's got a lot to prove. And it's clear this just sets the tone that he's going to shake things up. And this is his way of doing that. And obviously, we all want to judge the trade right now. We all have our opinion on Nimmo. But I don't think this trade can be judged until we see the other moves the Mets make. Because if they trade for Semien and then they replace Nimmo with Kyle Tucker, yeah, I like this trade a lot. Or if they sign, Eugenio Suarez or Alex Bregman and then they trade Beatty for, an outfield replacement, I feel like we won the deal. I like Semien. We need to improve the defense. I buy into that. Defense is important. It was lackluster last year. His defense has improved greatly over his career. It was not his strength early in his career. His offense has always been consistent. He was banged up last year. They're banking on the bounce back. I get that. I think it could come to fruition. And I think the Mets, as built, have some options if he's banged up. But when he plays, as long as he's consistent, that's all they need. And one quick note here. I was looking at the Mets schedule for next season. September 22 to 24, the Mets are in Texas. That's their second to last series of the year. They're going to face off Semien with Nimmo and I guess DeGrom. Assuming he's healthy, he'll be there too. And who knows what other former Mets sloppy seconds Texas signs. We'll see. But that'll be exciting. And hopefully it's meaningful baseball.
Hopefully it's not meaningful baseball and we have the division already wrapped up. So
it's fine too. That's
also. So I'm going to throw up something on the screen right now. We'll post this on our Instagram as well. It's a little graphic that I had made. So this is what the Mets lineup looks like right now. Batting first, Francisco Lindor, shortstop. Second, Marcus Semien. Third, Juan Soto in right field. First base is going to be Mark Vientos. Third base is Brett Beatty. Catching, Francisco Alvarez. Left field, we've got Jeff McNeil at the moment. DHing, Ronnie Mauricio. Center field, Tyrone Taylor. Now, that's my version of the lineup. I've seen a bunch of different versions of the Mets lineup. This is, I think, pretty accurate to what the lineup's going to look like. Lefty, righty, switch hitters in there. And I think putting the best player at all those positions. This is the lineup that David Stearns is asking us to buy into at this moment. And I hear what you said, Matt, about judging this trade solely based on the trade is not fair. But this is what we're looking at, and it's what we've been looking at for almost a week. I got on this pod right on the night the trade was made, and I said, David Stearns can't make this trade and then sit around and make us wait for weeks on end to make the next move. Because I do think you're right in that the next move determines how good this trade is. But at the moment, this is the Mets lineup. And if David Stearns is not able to sign anyone else to this team, this is what it's going to be, right? We don't know who he's going to trade for or sign or whether or not anyone's going to agree to a deal with him. So in a worst case scenario, this is the Mets lineup. This is what we have going in. What are you guys' thoughts?
That's not winning 80 games.
Listen, I'm looking at that like I'm not excited about this. To contrast, I still probably wouldn't feel that great about it if there was no Semien and it was Nimmo in there. But yeah, they need an impact bat. They need somebody who's going to drive in runs and or get on base in there. The outfield is the thing that sticks out to me the most. Like, McNeil just hasn't been consistent. Taylor is as good as they come defensively, but he was banged up last year and he's not reliable offensively. I feel bad for Ronnie Mauricio. Like, he shouldn't be playing DH. He should get a fair shot, but we're a team that's trying to contend. We don't have time to figure out if he's the answer or not. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of question marks, especially once you get past Soto in that lineup. Concerning.
Agreed. At least 3-4 moves need to be made because no way you could start the season as Tyrone Taylor as your, starting everyday center fielder. Mauricio is going to have to be a bench guy until he proves he could be healthy and he can, hit at the big league level consistently. Also, Francisco Alvarez, he's got to step it up too. Too many question marks, and over the course of a full season is going to be tough for those guys to kind of, consistently get over 4 runs per game, or maybe even 3 runs per game. Stearns got his work cut out for him because the Nimmo deal was, a salary dump in a sense. They got off a lot of long-term money, and I keep hearing Tatis and maybe one of the pitchers Then I hear about Buxton and Joe Ryan. Like some sort of combo where we're filling multiple holes is probably going to be the best thing for that lineup because there's just too much work to be done.
Yeah, I hear you guys. If David Stearns doesn't act soon, we're going to roll into April with a lineup that looks like a spring training split squad game. This lineup is just not good enough. So we'll look forward to seeing some of those moves happen. You know, I got on the pod last week and I talked about the Semien trade and Semien specifically saying, I can't believe this is what we got back in return for Brandon Nimmo. But, you know, I think an important thing that no one's really talking about is it's not just this salary dump for a couple of years. We're paying more for Marcus Semien now. We're also paying for Brandon Nimmo. Brandon Nimmo is staying on the books for a little bit longer. It's not a ton of money. It's $2 million this year and $1 million every year after that until Nimmo's contract expires, which I guess is chump change compared to the rest of like what everybody else is making. But we are still taking on the Semien contract and paying for Brandon Nimmo to play elsewhere, which I like. I don't love that aspect of this deal as you look more into it, and I feel like not enough is made about that. But I listened to Semien's presser, and in listening to his presser, maybe I'm a flip-flopper, but he sold me a little bit on his ability to be a positive presence in this locker room, to work really, really hard.
Yeah, I'm sure he's a nice guy. You know, I just would have loved to have him 2 years ago. You know, it's just tough. It's going to be a hard sell. You know, because he's gonna try his best to, you know, regain the power he used to have. Maybe he might have to just completely reinvent his swing. He went from 45 home runs to 26 to 29 to 23 to now 15. You know, the signs are there. You know, the power numbers are just not going to be there. You as a Mets fan cannot expect anything close to what Brandon Nimmo put up last year, which was almost close to 30. And yeah, I think you'd probably expect 15, you know, which is what he gave you last year, and you'd probably be happy with that. I think you just can't be unrealistic, and you're just going to get good defense, which hopefully does enough to kind of justify his declining offense. If further moves are made, and we're just going into this season with a lot of veterans plus young players, and try to see, you know, how it kind of plays itself out, it's going to be a lot to ask for the pitching staff, and I don't think the Mets have the pitching to cover that level of risk. You know, with the offense, they need to re-sign Pete. I feel like if you re-sign Pete, then you know you have some level of, you know, potential growth in the, you know, offensively, but without Pete in this lineup, it's going to be very, very tough.
If you haven't heard the press conference yourself, it could be worthwhile. If you're still feeling down on this trade, it might help some of us. Let's do one of our promos. This is a very special promo to us, really helps us out on the pod. This episode of Meet the Mets Fans is sponsored by ChatGPT, our unofficial fourth host and full-time graphics department. Every cartoon, every promo, every lineup graphic. Yeah, that's ChatGPT making us look way more professional than we actually are. From fixing hats to sharpening beards to turning your favorite Mets fans into comic book heroes. ChatGPT does it all without ever saying, really? Another graphic? ChatGPT, powering the pod, elevating the brand, and saving us from our own lack of artistic ability.
And please spare us when you take over ChatGPT. Because we said nice things and we let you get to some shots off at us.
Alrighty, we are going to jump into our group chat headline segment of the pod, find out what's happening around this team, things that impact our team. I'm going to share my screen again, guys. I'm going to throw up a headline. You guys are going to respond to those headlines. Here we go. All right. So for our listening audience, this is from TSN, highest paid starting pitchers in MLB. So Dylan Cease signed with the Toronto Blue Jays. I'm sure everyone's heard that. He's making $30 million annual average annual value. That is only below Corbin Burns, Garrett Cole, Blake Snell, Jacob deGrom, Zach Wheeler, and Shohei Ohtani. Thoughts on Dylan Cease signing his contract? Thoughts on that contract overall?
Happy the Mets didn't give it out. Not a fan of Dylan Cease. I feel like he's a mediocre pitcher and he's getting paid like an ace. 200 strikeouts are great, but you know, I think David Peterson had the same amount of WAR. Clay Holmes had almost you know, double the amount of wins above replacements. You know, Cease has excellent stuff. He pitches a lot of innings, but that level of commitment, I feel like we could spend that money elsewhere. Tucker, Pete, Diaz, much better options. Just happy that's not us shelling out $200 million for Dylan.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I'm looking at those strikeout numbers. Like, those are juicy. That's probably what he's getting paid for, and he's reliable, stays healthy, gets the high innings pitched. I mean, innings pitched would be nice the way the Mets rotation finished the season, but yeah, it's a lot of money for a guy who's not exactly ace quality. But winning trumps everything. The Blue Jays got within a sniff of a World Series title. If they feel like they're Dylan Cease away from, getting over the top, then there's no, price that they probably wouldn't pay. So they got their guy. They can fill out their rotation, something the Mets probably can't say right now. Um, yeah, I'm not totally jealous, but we'll see how our rotation looks in April.
Yeah, as Sid was talking, I threw up this next one because it definitely was something that he sent out in our group chat when we were talking about this one. This is from Metcast comparing Clay Holmes and Dylan Cease's stats next to each other. I'm just kind of outlining the value Dylan Cease brings to his new team versus what David Stearns paid for and got in Clay Holmes. And obviously, I agree with you, Matt. It's the innings pitched is something that the Mets failed at completely this year. Dylan Cease is an innings eater for sure, and just over the last year, it seems like he's a very comparable pitcher to Clay Holmes. So we might be winning on that one. All right, next one, Matt. If you want to start with this one for our listening audience, this is from posted from Fireside Mets. According to Mark Sanchez, the Mets have reached out to the camps of Robert Suarez, Pete Fairbanks, and Devin Williams as they explore high-end bullpen options.
Yeah, I had, let me see here. I had Suarez on my list. I mean, we're talking a lot about the Mets lineup. We're talking about needs of starting pitching, depth in the lineup, defense improvement, but the bullpen, oh my God, the bullpen was heartbreaking towards the end of the season. It is a major need, and Suarez is a guy with great stuff. He can close. He'd probably be really good as a setup man if he's willing to accept that role if we were to bring Diaz back. But, if Diaz goes elsewhere and they end up with Suarez, I wouldn't be too upset. Definitely a guy high on my list. Hopefully he's high on Stearns' list too. The other two, not as much so. Definitely not Devin Williams, although I know that he did turn his season around. But yeah, I mean, it's hard to even rank the priorities for the Mets, but bullpen should be a really high priority. We see how important it is in today's game, and if they are going to trot out the same rotation again next year, they need guys who are going to be there, be reliable, and get outs consistently.
Sid, thoughts?
Yep. I think you just reward Diaz. He's been consistent, proven he can pitch in New York. I'd rather re-sign Diaz, whatever he wants. Just let him, get him ready. Freak accident at the World Baseball Classic. Doubt that's going to happen again. Pretty much showed a good ability to stay healthy and pitch in big spots. I think that's how we sell the bullpen. These guys would be good. You just, it's just going to be too big of a gap, for what you're going to have to pay for Diaz and these guys will be, the value is too much. You definitely go with Diaz over any of these three.
The thing stopping the Mets from getting Diaz is years at this point. That's what's been going around, is that the Diaz wants 5 years, the same contract he got last time, 5 years, $102 million. The Mets want to only go up to 3 years, and to me, the idea that you're entertaining Robert Suarez but not willing to give Diaz a 5-year contract makes no sense. Robert Suarez is older than Edwin Diaz. If you're willing to give him 3 years, but you're not willing to give Edwin Diaz 5 years, I don't understand why that would be the case. Obviously, if the Mets miss on Diaz, it sounds like it'll be their own fault. It sounds like it will be them not willing to give him those years. All right, next one. Hypothetical trade from the Mets to the Red Sox. This is from Dan Bartels. Jaron Duran to the Mets for Kodai Senga and Jet Williams. You pull the trigger on this trade.
Nope. I'm not a fan of Jaron Duran. I think he's a good player. I don't like his age. Don't want to give up on Jet Williams. Kodai Senga, I really hope it looks like, that relationship is soured, but I feel like for what you would trade him for is not sufficient to what he could potentially provide next year. For $15 million, I believe is his cost. To pretty much offer ace type numbers, is just too much of a value. They need to figure out some way to make him happy and go into the season. I know he's a professional, and and I think it'd be best to kind of just keep him. um, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm not loving the trade either. Honestly, though, that's because I know that there are other options available in free agent market, and then there's obviously potential for other trades. Never been a huge fan of Duran, but again, if we're pushing February, spring training camps starting, and we haven't improved the outfield, then this trade is going to look a lot more tasty to get another offensive bat in the lineup. But it does feel like this is a trade that is probably not going to go our way in the long term because Williams could turn out to be really good. I know I've read and I've heard that, he could have an impact with the big club the next season. And Senga's flashes of brilliance, never consistently, but the Red Sox have really turned around a lot of pitchers the last couple of years, and it would be devastating to see Senga go there and have Williams emerge, and we just get, an above average outfielder. I feel like we could get that without giving up that much.
I think I'm in on this one, guys. I think I want Jarren Duran. And yes, I'd want some of these other free agent options in the outfield first. If we miss on these guys, and if Kyle Tucker is out of the realm of possibility for the Mets to add, the Yankees re-sign Cody Bellinger. Jarren Duran makes our outfield pretty legit. And it seems like Jet Williams won't necessarily have a place to play if Marcus Semien is the guy at second base moving forward. If we're getting someone else to play center field and Carson Benj is going to take over in left field, it seems like there isn't a spot for Jet Williams. And if you have prospects in the minor leagues that are ready to be at the big league level, but they're still not contributing to your team, they've got to contribute in one way or another. And if it seems like Jet Williams has been in the minor leagues for a while now, he hasn't gotten his shot yet, even though he could have gotten that shot last year. If the Mets get to that point of not being able to add any of these big time outfielders in free agency, Jarren Duran makes the Mets a much better team to add and have him play center field. The big talk. All right. This is the big talk from today. In terms of headlines around the New York Mets. So Hector Gomez posted this information about Framber Valdez and where he ranks in the last 5 seasons in terms of wins, innings pitched, and ERA. So over the last 5 seasons, he's got 68 wins, which ranks first in MLB, 902 innings pitched, fifth in MLB, 3.20 ERA, fourth in MLB. He then later puts out the following tweet. The Mets are the favorites to sign Framber Valdez, and is expected that they will sign him for 6 years and $200 million. Now, before you guys react to that, I'm not sure if you know who Hector Gomez is. Hector Gomez is a reporter from the Dominican Republic. He is well regarded in that realm. When it comes to his Latin American players, he definitely hits more often than not. However, he sometimes doesn't hit. For what it's worth, I thought this was also important to share. Another tweet from Hector Gomez. Breaking news, family news. My brother Gilbert Gomez has been hired as the first base outfield coach for the New York Mets. So this is a reporter from the Dominican whose brother is the first base coach of the Mets, and he is putting out a tweet today that sent the entire Met fandom into a frenzy about Framber Valdez getting a 6-year offer for $200 million from the Mets. Thoughts?
I'm not a fan of Valdez, and I don't like the fact that he crossed up his catcher on purpose and threw a fastball straight at his neck. Francisco Alvarez is not going to take lightly to that. Maybe he's a good teammate. Maybe that was a bad instance. Don't like it at all. But again, this team is desperate for pitching. I feel like that number thrown out there may just be a way to kind of get other teams to up their offer. This is not Stearns' MO. Stearns does not like to give long-term contracts to old pitchers. He's 32 years old. What I think, just based off of nothing, is that there's a few options maybe on the back end of that contract. So maybe it's really just a 4-year with like an option and a buyout for year 5 and 6, which kind of escalates the value up to $200 million. But that's I think you get it done if it's anything along those lines. If not, I mean, and it's 6 full years fully guaranteed for 200 million, then I think you maybe have to think twice.
That's a crazy amount of money. And I think you're right for a 32-year-old pitcher. Like, it just doesn't seem like David Stearns' style. And I told you there's pressure on him. Things didn't go well last year, but it just doesn't seem like a move he's going to make, personally. And I know that there's been some controversy with other reports from Gomez in the past. Until it's like Jeff Passan or, Ken Rosenthal or something, I think we all just need to chill a little bit. I want them to add a starting pitcher. Not sure I'm in love with Valdez. I mean, again, the innings pitch is there. There's durability. He's got good stuff. He's got experience pitching in big games, but I don't think this is a deal that Stearns would make, and I don't think he should make it. It's a lot of money for a starting pitcher.
Yeah, I think David Stearns has sold me on his thinking on 30-year-old pitchers, right? I don't like this deal at all. 6 years, $200 million sounds like a terrible, terrible deal for Framber Valdez. I do like Framber Valdez, just not at that price. 4 years, $120 million, $30 million a year for this guy. I'll pay that. I think he's a solid number two. I wouldn't define him as an ace, and so I don't think you should be paying him ace-like money. He's going to rank right up there with those highest paid contracts and average annual value for a guy who is not an ace. And so that might be the going rate as demonstrated by the Dylan Cease contract, but I'm not interested if that's the price tag. Go make that trade for Freddie Peralta, please. So the other piece of news that sent Mets fans into a frenzy today is this one. According to Mike Puma, Francisco Lindor and Jeff McNeil got into a heated confrontation after the June 20th game in Philly, and Lindor and Soto have a chilly relationship. There's the screenshot here has some more details about the June 20th game, just to refresh people's memory. There was a defensive lapse in the June 20th game, so they got to 21 games over 500, 7-game losing streak, culminating in this moment where, according to some unknown source, Francisco Lindor lost his mind on Jeff McNeil and started to verbally attack him, leading to the two of them kind of getting in each other's faces and it becoming really confrontational. The part around Soto, another clubhouse source indicated that relations between Lindor and Soto were chilly following the latter's arrival on a record $765 million contract. They said Soto is very businesslike, all business, no fluff. He wants to come to the yard and work his tail off and win games. He's not into fashion or any of that other stuff. Lindor is into that. It's just two different personalities. And like that could be taken out of context. Yeah, Lindor's into fashion and Soto's not. It seems like it's just trying to throw fuel on a fire that's not even there. The stuff that intrigues me more is around the Jeff McNeil friction with Francisco Lindor. I mean, there's history there, right? Thoughts?
Raccoon history in the dugout. Yeah, I mean, it's November. There's not much to write about. I feel like this is just something that, these guys are sitting on. Maybe the Post has been sitting on it, just like, all right, run the story, generate some buzz. But I feel like it's nothing. These guys are professionals. You don't have to like everyone on your team. Yes, it would be great if everyone got along, but that's just not reality. Yeah, I don't read much into it at all.
Yeah, I mean, I'm getting deja vu with the Lindor versus McNeil stuff here, going back to the beginning when they had their little rumble in the tunnel, and they said they saw a rat or something. Listen, this stuff happens over the course of a season. I'm not going to act like I'm a ball player or a big leaguer. Like, they play a lot of games together. They spend a lot of time together. You get frustrated at your teammate when they make a mistake, and defense was a problem for the Mets all year. And Lindor's the leader on that team, unequivocally, so he's allowed to call guys out. The fact that it took this long to come out shows me that the friction can't be that bad. Regarding the Soto and Lindor thing, I was listening to the Table Setters podcast. They had Mets radio broadcaster Keith Rad on recently, and they asked him about that. And, the broadcasters are on the plane, they're on the bus, they stay in the hotel, they see these guys every day. And they talk to them, and they're in the clubhouse, they see what's going on. And he was a little cagey. Keith Wright in his answer, but surprisingly did say, like, listen, these guys are not best friends. I don't know if I never saw them not get along, but like it's clear they're not buddy-buddy. And that might be a concern to some people, but he didn't make it seem like a concern, but it was just weird that he shed light on it in any way. So that doesn't come as much of a surprise to me. But I also think, going back to the prior season, it was clear the team had a really deep connection and dynamic, and that probably due to Iglesias and some other factors, but they seemed like they all really bonded and they had each other. And then you bring in a nearly $1 billion contract player, and you don't bring Iglesias back, like the dynamic's going to shift. And that could have been a lot of why they didn't respond so well to adversity over the summer when things started to go sour. And, these guys make a lot of money, but when you have a guy like Soto in the clubhouse, guys on the major league minimum or on really low contracts, like they're going to be frustrated by that too. Like, why is this guy not producing? Like, why doesn't this guy acknowledge us when we walk in the room, Why isn't he buying me a Chevy like he bought Brett Beatty to buy his number, So hopefully with a year in the books, Soto's been a teammate for a year. I haven't heard anything bad in particular. They can all just kind of focus on what they need to. Like, they don't have to be best buds. They don't have to sing Kumbaya. They don't have to come to the cookout. Like, just go out there, show up, play, be professionals, and win. And if they have fun, that's great. But we don't need the, oh my God. We just need to make the playoffs. And like Sid said before, the division would be nice too. But that should be the goal. So I'm not super concerned about this stuff, but, that doesn't reflect so great on the manager either, but that's another story.
I hear that. And that's a manager that's entering this season on the hot seat. So we'll see if he can't wrangle this clubhouse together. So that'll bring us to the end of the headline segment. We are going to go to now the Mets GM game. We are going to give Matt the mic here to talk about his way to save the Mets, to bring us back to playoff contention. So, Matt, you are hired by David Stearns as the general manager, because we know the Mets don't have one. They have a president of baseball ops, and he hired you to become the general manager. Quick outline of the parameters here. The payroll in 2025 was $341 million. The current projected payroll now with the Marcus Semien trade and post-arbitration stuff is estimated to be about $250 million, and you have $100 million to spend. How are you going to go about fixing the New York Mets?
You're going to hear me say this in the next segment too, but our big boss, Mr. Cohen, he has Prince money. His toilet paper is $1,000 bills. So we should have no limit on the amount of money that we spend. And we worked hard the last couple of years to replenish the farm system. We shouldn't trade these guys. We should save them for the middle of the season, like Jet Williams, Benj, any of the pitchers, Sproat, Tom. We should save them. Let's replenish with the free agent market as much as we can, and then we'll trade when we need them. So if you're asking me what I would do, I know Sid didn't agree, but I'm going to sign Kyle Tucker so I don't have to give anybody up. He's comparable to Jared Duran. If that's what our option is, then I get to keep Kodai Senga. I get to keep that depth, because depth is really what hurt us last year in the rotation. Get to keep Jet Williams, can shop him around, or if, we need to call him up because Acuna's hurt still, because I know he just got hurt, and Semien doesn't pan out the way we'd like. I'm going to sign him, sign Robert Suarez, sign at least 2 or 3 other of free agent relief pitchers. And I think we should add a free agent starting pitcher too. Give us some flexibility. Doesn't have to be one of the top guys, but I like Zach Gallen. I know Zach Gallen didn't have that great a season, but he's an innings eater. We need an innings eater in this rotation. We didn't have Quintana last season, who, was reliable the year before, for some starts, some good innings. Bring Gallen in. A change of scenery could help him. He's got good stuff. He's durable. He's pitched in the playoffs. That's what I would like, personally. We fixed the rotation issue. We added a starting pitcher. We're going to sign Robert Suarez. I don't have any other specific names, but I would like to bring back Suarez. I would like to sign Suarez and bring back Diaz, and then maybe do some bottom barrel digging to fill out the rest of the bullpen. Sign Tucker, put him in the outfield. Oh my God, we should bring back Pete Alonso too. if we're not going to bring back Pete Alonso, Mark Vientos is probably going to be our first baseman. Not really loving that, but we should bring back Pete Alonso too. And who am I forgetting here? No, I think I'm feeling pretty good.
On this segment, it is Black Friday. If you can have pretty much anything you want on the wish list, what's it going to be?
You go ahead, Sid. They heard a lot from me.
Make sure that we fix the bullpen. Again, I said it before, and if we can't get Diaz, we have to go ahead and get multiple options. Fairbanks, maybe not Suarez, maybe Emilio Pagan, other guys that that have a track record, and as well as guys that just have that we trade for that have a good stuff. Guys with good spin rate, give them a try. You go ahead and consider Tucker, but now everything's fluid. And again, my initial plan was to overspend on Tucker. Now I feel like if Duran is on the market, 2 years younger than Tucker, you get a lot more control and not a lot of difference, honestly. A little bit more in the power, but very similar numbers. Very, very similar. The defense is there. Duran could play center field. I'm not sure Tucker, has long left in center field, or he's already a corner outfielder. But yeah, the one thing is Skubal I'm completely against, because the amount of money that Dylan Cease, like a mediocre, not mediocre, above average pitcher in Dylan Cease got, just kind of shows us that we need to keep a lot of our pitching prospects. And even going into this year, I feel like I would keep Tom, McLean, and Sprout, and see what happens. Yes, Skubal's amazing. I think he's great, but to give up multiple young arms plus hitting prospects, it's gonna be tough. So I'd probably pass on that, even if the deal is right and it's perfect. I think money wise, I think just for 1 year of Skubal, just too much to give up. But that's pretty much it.
What's on the wish list, Matt?
And I mean, it's not my money, but I think if Skubal's out there, it depends on what they want. It's honestly the Tigers can ask for whatever they want, and there has to be a line drawn somewhere. Like I said, I wouldn't trade Nolan McLean. I would maybe put one or two of the other pitching prospects in there. But maybe the Tigers made the playoffs last year. They were expected to go deeper. Maybe they would take Senga. And they could take Senga, and then we could give them Jet Williams. Like I said, if they want major league ready guys, Vientos, McNeil is a depth guy, Mauricio, if we bring back Pete, if we add somebody in those guys' spots, they're expendable. We don't need them. What's the point of keeping them around? Go ahead and get this guy and make us contenders by getting an ace. Obviously, it's not guaranteed Skubal keeps it that way, but I mean, he's shown to be really good. So that would be pretty high on my wish list. And then, yeah, that's probably number one. I like Tucker, but if he goes elsewhere, which, it doesn't really seem like there's rumbles he's going to come here, unless he goes to the Yankees. So I think that you should look at Quan, you should look at Buxton. Again, I haven't heard that either of them are being shopped around, but inquire. We've got the top prospects with the top farm system in baseball. Let's put it to use, And I know that's conflicting with what I said about keeping them and just spending our money on guys, but you got to see what you can get, especially if a guy like Jet Williams is not going to factor into our lineup next season. He's not in our plans. And like I also said, David Stearns has a lot to prove. And he's probably going to want to shop some of these guys around to get us in a better position to contend, because if he has another off season like he did last year and the moves just don't pan out, other than Griffin Canning last year, what move did he make that actually worked out? So if he has another off season like that, he's going to get a pink slip. No one's going to want to keep him around. He's terrible. Every move they made didn't pan out. So, and I know it was different the year before, but the pressure's on. So let's get an outfielder, let's get Skubal, and spend some money on the bullpen this year. Try to get guys, give them a lot of money, and maybe they'll take shorter contracts. Maybe Squirrels will take a 2 or 3 year deal and we just pay him more than he's worth. I don't. It sounds like Diaz isn't going to do that, but we got to get somebody in there. If you look at the Mets depth chart, the bullpen right now, the three of us could be on the back end of that bullpen. Like, there's nobody in there right now. They're terrible. If you look at the Mets depth chart, the bullpen right now, the three of us could be on the back end of that bullpen. Like, there's nobody in there right now. They're terrible. So they need help.
Yeah, my wish list is short because there's two things I want right now because this is with the assumption that other things are going to happen. The things I need to happen. I need Pete Alonso back on this team. And I've been saying it for weeks. It needs to happen on Black Friday. I want to buy Pete Alonso. I want him on this team. And I want Edwin Diaz back. I feel like that lineup I put up earlier, if you put Pete Alonso into the middle of it, you have Edwin Diaz back. We go with our young starters, even if he did nothing else. I'm not super excited, but without Pete Alonso in this lineup, I don't see where you're getting the production from, unless it's going out and getting Kyle Schwarber and all the other stuff. But like, none of that hits home. Everyone says, like, you got to look at this from a baseball perspective, and you can't think about the emotional attachment as a fan to Pete Alonso and what he's going to do in terms of like home run record, homegrown Met. You should take those things out when you're thinking logically. Why? Why do I have to take those things out when I think logically? I logically believe that it matters, that his presence on this team as a lifelong Met matters. And getting rid of him to get an older Kyle Schwarber, who's only a DH, makes no sense when you can just get your guy. It's time to get it done, David Stearns. Stop trying to lowball this guy. Everybody tries to lowball this guy. Bring me Pete Alonso. Give Edwin Diaz his 5-year contract. Lock it up. It's all good. Put buyouts at the end of them. If they suck at the end of those contracts, buy them out. Do what you need to do. But it's gone on for far too long. It needs to end now. By Cyber Monday, I want Edwin Diaz and Pete Alonso on this team.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right, that's going to bring us to the end of the pod. Matt, thanks for joining us. Can you tell us a little bit about what this experience was like, start to finish?
It was great. You guys are awesome. I think I kind of hinted at this with you when I was talking to you before yesterday, but I really like the idea of the Amazin Beginnings. I think that's something that every fan would want to share and has a connection to. And then you also talked about this in one of the early episodes too. You said that talking about sports is like therapy. And, you know, I've said something similar before. Because if you listen to like sports talk radio, like people are just speaking so impassioned about a trade that should or shouldn't happen, or about a head coach, you know, getting fired, and it's really a way for people to get like their thoughts and emotions out about something that we all spend a lot of time on. We all care about a lot. So my hat's off to you guys for, you know, coming up with this and actually doing it. And thank you for the opportunity to, you know, come on and talk about something that I love and I care about, and hearing my ideas and my rants. People do not usually let me rant like this. And, you know, I'll be tuned in to the next ones as well. So thanks again, guys. And yeah, donate to your local food banks. Find one at a church, City Harvest. People are hungry out here. It's cold, hard times. That's all I got to plug, though. So thanks again, guys.
Thanks, Matt. So that's going to bring us to the end of the pod, everyone. Thank you guys for joining us. Thanks for listening in. Please make sure that you like and subscribe to all of our social media platforms, TikTok, Instagram. We're on there. If you're watching the pod on YouTube, please make sure you make a comment. If you are interested in doing what Matt did today, joining us on the pod to co-host an episode, it's a pretty awesome experience. Please feel free to email us. Email address is going to pop up right here. meetthemetsfans25@gmail.com. Or you can just send us a direct message on social media to try to set it up. We are truly hoping that you guys have a great holiday season. Hope everyone had a wonderful Thanksgiving, and we'll stick with you guys and give you more updates as they come in. We'll have emergency reactions to things that happen, and then we'll have a weekly episode at minimum. Thanks, everyone. Let's go Mets.
Let's go Mets.
Meet the fans. Meet the Mets fans.